there is something that took place for ADA for the very first time ever. And we need to have a discussion about it because this tends to be a very exciting sign for what price can do. And it is, in fact, a golden cross. Now, this isn't the ones that we've discussed before. This is something very different. So we're going to talk about that. But I do want to also talk about this group of ADA holders that has actually been unloading ADA for most of 2025. Well, they have just shifted trend in a very big way. So if you guys are new or haven't already, show your support for the channel down below. Hit that subscribe button, that bell. It's free to do. It'll keep you updated anytime there's new content live here on the channel. So it hasn't been very long since I filmed my first ADA video. Right now, it's about 6:45 a.m. Central Standard Time. And we've seen ADA make a little bit of a jump. We were fighting around that 60-cent level. We jumped up into the mid 60-cent range, 60, 65 actually at the high today so far. And again, hopefully this is a trend that continues. Hopefully US money wakes up, decides to buy and just, pushes us to some exciting breakouts. I'd love for the entire space to get excited. I'd love for us to see some rallies and who knows, maybe this is a start of something. But what I wanted to talk about here was this golden cross that took place for ADA. Now, this isn't on the daily. This isn't on the weekly like we've tracked before. What this is actually our golden cross on our weekly SMA. Now, this is something that we don't look at that often. It's not particularly a stronger point of reference or anything like that, but it is worth noting that this is the first ever weekly golden cross on the SMA. Now, this actually took place about a week ago or so. Basically, we got our confirmation right at the end of June, so we're about 10 days into this. I think a lot of people miss this. Now, why this is so significant is this typically leads us to do some extensions in terms of price. If we look at, for example, our EMA, last time we got our golden cross was right as we were in our rally in November, right? Obviously took us to some very exciting highs. We did get kind of an anticlimactic one back here, obviously in February of 2024. Things had just been so far descended that this one turned into kind of a nothing burger. So we have yet to see how this is going to impact price. Unfortunately, ADA's only been around long enough that we've started to see our 200-day moving average develop back in February of 2022. So we haven't had much of an opportunity or a track record to see how this is going to affect price. But golden crosses are not historically a bad thing. Now, I will say on the daily charts for both the EMA and the SMA, we're still a little ways away from getting a golden cross and a flip here. So got a little bit of work to do there, but maybe times will be changing if the market starts going on some more significant rallies. Now, something that has helped us, especially in the past 2 weeks, is we have seen ADA whales buy. This has been a very consistent trend since the start of the year. We actually see whales holding more than they did at that point. But I think that this group of whales is one that needs to be discussed because this is the holders that hold between 1 million to 10 million ADA. Now, you guys can see a very distinct trend here since the early part of May. And it has been unloading, right? Now, obviously, part of this is covered up by my box here, but you can actually see this kind of breakout up here. And what we've seen is over the last 2 weeks, this group of holders that has been historically dumping ADA has flipped the script. They have bought 120 million ADA in just the last 2 weeks. Now, this has helped create a good amount of stability in terms of price. This is probably one of the reasons why we haven't really been setting lower lows. It's because they're defending things. They're taking advantage of the lower prices. This is one reason why, people that have been waiting for really, really low ADA price, 40 cent, 30 cent, probably not coming. This isn't a guarantee or financial advice. Obviously, we talked about ADA just broke 61 cents. That's exciting. If you guys can't see how excited I am. We did talk about obviously potential downside into the lower 40s the other day. But again, like I said, doesn't necessarily need to happen. We could easily get into short leverage liquidations. We could get into surges above moving averages. We can break out against these longer term trends. And you could see the markets frankly start running. Now, what I will say is that Crypto Rover actually made a good post, and this is something I hadn't looked at before. He said, we've only seen this kind of compression in altcoins a few times in history, and every single time it led to a major breakout. What he pointed out was back here in 16, altcoin extension, 2017, altcoin extension, 2020, 2021, back here again in late 2023, here in late 2024. And right now we are seeing the exact same thing, this compression of alts that are preparing us for a potentially sizable breakout. Now, one thing I will remind people of is the longer we sit in these trends, the longer, and actually we're just getting a little bit of an altcoin breakout right now, not trying to get, again, too excited or anything like that, but the longer these consolidation periods take, the more explosive the moves become, because you're basically compressing all this energy into a very small area. There's very little supply to go around. You have all this capital sitting on the sidelines. So when the charts start moving, you have a bunch of people that start getting hit with FOMO, that start chasing, that start causing liquidations, that start causing prices to move even more aggressively to the upside. Now, I will say that there's a comment from a viewer that was actually, I should have had this pulled up, that was talking about March, and March didn't have to do with retail and it was manipulation, and maybe some of it was, right? I think it had a lot more to do with, one, a little bit of a supply shock taking place, but two, with short leverage liquidations. We've dealt with so much short interest in the market, and shorts have been winning in a big way because the news has in fact been so negative. But the problem that always lies there is when they've been winning for so long, they tend to get overconfident. They tend to make very dumb decisions. They get very close to price, huge concentrations of short leverage, and then you can see a massive short squeeze take place, like we saw in March, like we saw in November, like we saw in February into March of 2024. This isn't the new thing. Basically, the news, the players, they're just all a little bit different this time. All right. So that's kind of where we're at. Again, good accumulation, good start to the day, very good start to the week. And hopefully this is something that, again, can carry us to some pretty exciting times. So appreciate you guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts below, but have a great day. Catch you guys in the next one. Take care.